To support this podcast, go to positivesarcasm.com/donate. Any amount is appreciated. Once again, positivesarcasm.com/donate. Thank you and enjoy the program. Jay here, positivesarcasm.com, recorded here from the Spare Parts Studio for entertainment purposes only, getting ever closer to New Hampshire's beautiful seacoast. Like, subscribe, share, donate. Positivesarcasm.com/donate. Why am I slouching? It's probably because, whatever. Donate, positivesarcasm.com/donate, and smash appreciated. If you heard any of that, great. If you didn't, good. Find me on Instagram at +_sarcasm. You can email me there. You can email me directly through my website. Go to the contact section, or positivesarcasm@outlook.com. There's plenty of ways to get a hold of me. So go ahead and hit up that. But what we see, we got one. How many podcasts do we have left in this studio? I'd say like what? Four? We're closing in. We got about a month left. 4 or 5 podcasts we have left in this cramped ass studio before we pack it up and move back to the ocean. That's pretty crazy. I mean, that's it. 4 or 5. I mean, it's obviously I got a little farther ways to go, like actually physically, but like actually like packing shit up and this and making sure that everything is, Dad, that's going to be like a week or so ahead of schedule before the hiatus begins. And then once everything is unpacked and stuff, it's going to be another week or two of testing everything and making sure everything works and how we're going to store all this stuff and making sure the servers are running and the long-term stretch. Because I didn't expect to be here in this studio for more than, I'd say, a year or two? A year at the most. And here we are 3 years later. So I'm going to really take my time, which is going to be a matter of probably, like, I don't know, 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks at the most, of unpacking everything and making sure it's ready to go for the new season. The new format. So, that's just wanted to think that through for a second because it just popped in my mind. It's like we only got a few more of these left before we go on hiatus, which actually does help a lot for my brain because it's like Saturday Night Live. It takes a lot of work to come up with this shit for an hour. But anyways, for entertainment purposes only, I had this weird. This dream is crazy. I could have sworn this happened in real life. It didn't happen to me personally, but I could have sworn, it happened in real life. Like this was an actual thing that took place, but it didn't. So I'll give you the dream. Obviously, I guess it was on an overseas flight, and there was 2 planes landing at the same time. And I don't know if what stemmed it. Maybe it was all the latest stuff with all the TSA stuff going on and the plane crashes and collisions and stuff. But this one was pretty big. Where I guess we were landing. There was 2 runways. So, and I don't know if you've ever been to an airport that's big enough where you see 2 planes, like your plane's landing on a runway and then another plane is landing on an adjacent runway right next to you, and it's kind of cool. You play that game? Oh, who's gonna land first? So we're taking off. I guess we're traveling overseas. I think to Europe or something, and the airport obviously is right over the ocean. But everybody was looking at this big fucking airplane. We're talking like an Airbus A series, like something gigantic. 500-600 passenger plane, something that I'm pretty sure doesn't even exist. I mean, I think the largest passenger planes that ever actually existed, I think, were the Boeing 747, like 500 series or something. I don't know. I think it was like Singapore Airlines or Korean Airways or whatever, but it was like a 747. But this one was, in my brain, was much bigger. It was like an Airbus, or like an Antonov. Like an Antonov. An Antonov is like they're a cargo plane. But I think it's like the largest plane in the world. It's either that or the C-5 Galaxy. But this one looked more European. An Airbus is European. Antonov is Eastern European. Ukrainian, I believe. But we're coasting. It's sunny out. It's beautiful. We're about to land. And we're watching this other plane. And I can't... Obviously, it's a dream, so not all the details are there. But I just remember this plane that was landing just like if you're like we're looking at, if you look ahead, the plane is just a little bit behind us, about to land, and then something takes place. This plane just erupts in flames, just completely explodes as it's about to make the runway or something like that. But the plane, it doesn't touch the runway. It just boom, gone. And I can, in my dream, the vividness of the people like just in shock and like erupting in tears and screaming. Our plane lands, no problems whatsoever. But we feel we're feeling the vibration of this other plane just like going full Hindenburg, just boom, and just disintegrating. And thinking in my head, like, that's 500 people who just fucking evaporated, like just erased by the wind and the flames all together, and just wow. And then we landed, and I don't know, we were in like somewhere in like Dublin or Scotland or France or whatever. And then we just got on our connecting flight and just off we went. Somewhere hilly that looked like the Windows 95 background. Like it looked like that, but just like one of those dreams, like crazy, on a crazy traumatizing event. And then we just land. Everybody else over there is dead, but we land, and we just hop on our connecting flight, and off we go. And then and that's the vast majority of the dream I can remember. I used to be able to write my dreams. I had a notepad next to my bed. Now I just, get up to go pee like any other old fuck. But I mean, that I vividly remember, just a plane, just a massive explosion. And I can't remember whether it was the front or the back, but I just remember the whole plane was gone. It would just, whew. And I can't explain I mean, more fire and flames than when the Space Shuttle Challenger erupted. And the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up very quickly. Completely, like, disintegrated. But this thing, yeah, just, woof. I couldn't. It made me think about, like, best case and worst case scenario. Like, there's a lot of, like, obviously a lot of news fodder and fear mongering out there. Always. It's like, oh, we had it worse than we ever been, or we're gonna be this closer to World War III, and it's like, sure, we've always, for the last 75 years, we've always been one misunderstanding, one miscommunication, or one false detection away from the end of the world. We have. There's been so many close calls and other items where, I mean, obviously the Cuban Missile Crisis, we were that close. There was a false ballistic missile detection by the Russians, like that the Russians, one Russian general or whatever, decided it was not real, it couldn't happen, and they did not counter launch. Even though there was no launch, but they did not counter launch. And then there was the situation in Hawaii where everybody got a text message on the Big Island saying missile inbound, find cover. And turned out it was a false alarm. It was an accident. And there's probably been a couple others that we obviously know no idea. But there's been many close encounters, public or private. And it makes you wonder, like, obviously, how much time do you want to actually invest in that? Like, I have friends and acquaintances who tell me about the worst case scenario that could happen or will happen or whatever. But you have to see it from both sides. You have to go through your day. And we've talked about this. I think I discussed this. To this part, I discussed that you, have to go through your day as if the next day is going to come and everything's going to be okay. And you still have a routine that you have to go through. But if your routine is for some reason interrupted by, say, a nuclear explosion, or a zombie apocalypse, or an invasion, what do you do? And I was like, all right, I guess every person has to have that conversation with themselves, with their family, with their loved ones, the people they're close to, with their job. And so I had these conversations. I mean, what would you do? Obviously, there's a mix. It's like there's a lot of things that could take place tomorrow, now, tonight, in 2 weeks, in 6 months, in 2 years. I don't know. But what could happen? And what do you do? I guess in that situation is, do you have a bag that has some stuff in it, like an extra set of clothes, and a couple other things, like maybe a juice pack for your phone, which is going to be useless. Any type of portable radio communications. Do you have some things here and there? Can you be away from a high threat level zone within a matter of 5 minutes? Can you be on the road in 5 minutes? Because, I mean, the things that are going to take place, well, credit cards, so transactions, processing credit cards, debit cards, that's going to be done. That's going to probably fail. And I'd say within a matter of 30 minutes, the word's going to be out and chaos is going to ensue. Like, people were, after 2 weeks of being locked up during COVID, people started getting antsy. Toilet paper started flying off the shelf. Well, actually, that shit started happening really quickly. Like, groceries started disappearing, flying off the shelves. Here's the thing. When that happened, money was still, you could still process credit card and debit card transactions. That's the difference. People were able to buy what was left on the shelves because their credit cards and their debit cards worked. That's not going to be the case if the credit and debit cards stop working. You've got 30 minutes. So, I guess, how far do you have to travel equals how much gas you should always have in your tank. I'd say a half a tank of gas is going to get you should be able to at least get 200 miles. So any car with a half a tank of gas should be able to get you, a half tank of gas is whatever. Half tank of gas is, for me, $20, $25. For some people, $30 will get you a full tank of gas and you can get 300 miles. Cool. But you need to get 200 miles. 200 miles gets you outside the city limits. 200 miles gets you alternate routes because you're not taking the highways. The highways are, you do not want to be anywhere near the highway. Highways are going to be blocked. They're going to be points of interest to threats. You're going to want to be taking back roads. And you're going to want to have enough gas and a car that can access those back roads. And you're going to need to be able to have understanding of those routes because GPS may not work. So your credit cards, not going to work. Access to gasoline, not going to work. Access to food, not going to happen. Where are you meeting? Who are you meeting? How quickly can you get there? And how fast can you get out of Dodge? And that's the conversation if the shit was to hit the fan. And this conversation shouldn't last more than an hour. It's like, all right, because you're only going to have 1 minute to make a decision and then execute it. It's like, okay, if the shit's going down and you're at work, how much of a threat are you to either stay there or leave? Do you stay or do you leave? If you stay, do you have the stuff you need? If you go, can you safely get to your destination that you need to in order to meet up with the people you need to? And it's like, okay, where do you meet? All right, you've got to be within, I'd say, because we're talking apocalyptic type shit. We're talking about nuclear, zombie, meteor, invasion. You've got 15 minutes. You've got to get to where you're going. Cops aren't going to give a fuck. You've got to get to where you're going. So get to wherever you're going. Do not take the highways. The highways are going to be jammed up with accidents and people trying to get home really quickly. You've got to figure out back roads. Simple as that. Figure that out the best you can and understand those routes. If you're meeting somebody, an hour. They got to be there for an hour. No more than that. If they're waiting for you in an area that is not a threat or a low-level threat, 1 hour. If they don't see you in an hour, they got to bolt. And they got to have an address that they know they can get to. What do you bring with you? If you have firearms, bring those. If you have some food, you bring that. Extra set of clothes, cash if you have it, portable communication devices. Something that can last you for at least a day. If you have solar panels, but obviously you can't. You have to have a minimum necessary requirement list that you can literally be like, all right, I'm going to my house, grabbing this stuff, and I'm gone within a matter of a couple minutes. That's it. That's all you're going to have. And you have to know your routes. That's worst case scenario. Your best case scenario is you have your investments, your stock, your crypto, your cash management, your bank account. Like, you get out of it, that stuff is ready for you when you get back, or nothing happens at all, and your stock prices go up, your cash is still available, your credit cards are going to work, and you move on with your day. But you have to understand, like, you need to have you invest 10% in the worst case and 90% in the best case. That 10% that you prepare for the worst case, 10% is basically having a grab bag, having self-protection, having some, having investment in fuel. So if you have a half a tank of gas, you can get basically anywhere. Yeah, basically anywhere you get. That car is probably going to be useless after that, unless you have access to more gasoline. But at that point, you're probably not going to be going very far. But these are the little things that you have to decide what can you have access to in the shortest amount of time to get where you need to go with the least amount of resistance. And then that's it. After that, I really can't tell you what else to do, because I can't tell you what's going to happen, where it's going to come from, how apocalyptic it's going to be, and ultimately when it's going to end. Now, you also have to look at your geography. It's like, okay, I have this to the left. I have this to the east of me, this to the west of me, this to the north of me, this to the south of me. Obviously, nuclear threats, that is an immediate, we're out of here. That's an immediate, you're out of there. If you're within 5 miles, you got to go. Now think about it. A nuclear launch is detected within literally the first minute. They detect that missile's in the air. You've got 30 minutes maximum. And that's when they start. By the time 30 minutes is up, they're going to start landing. They start landing. I would say and we've talked about that too. You're going to find out in the first minute. Text messages are going to go out to your phones automatically. That's 1 minute. You're going to be heading to your car and heading out the door. That's 2 minutes. You've now got 15, 20 minutes to get out of there, depending upon where you are. Because these missiles, obviously, if they're intercontinentals and they're being launched from other countries, they're going to go into orbit. They're going to go into orbit, and it's going to take them 25 minutes, 30 minutes to come out of orbit and reach their destination, assuming it's not directly on you. You also got a blast radius. If you're within a few miles of a nuclear blast radius, you got a problem. You need to get out of that. It's generally like you got to be at least like 10 miles away from that shit. And after that, you're going to have electronic problems because of the EMP. You're going to have radiation issues. There's blast radius issues. So you have to get out of there. There's no hesitation. There's no calling anybody. It's basically the shit's going down. If you can, you send one text message saying it's happening, go here. And that's it. And then you take off. You meet your best case scenario, you meet your peoples, you're gone. You go to your pre-designated area and you either wait out the storm or you go further into the woods. But that's worst case scenario. This is stuff that it stemmed from a dream of mine, and it stemmed from talking to people that I know, like, how much effort and thought do I put into this, and ultimately we had a small conversation about it. What could possibly happen? What should we do? And then where do we go? That discussion was made. We agreed upon it, and we moved forward. Me, it's a matter of I'm going directly from point to point. That's it. From point, meet, gone. That's it. And that's all you can do. family members and friends that are not within reach, you can't do anything for them. You can't. They're going to be calling. They're going to be going crazy. They're going to be confused. They're going to have their own plans, and that's pretty much it. Expect to lose family. Expect to lose friends. Expect to lose coworkers, and that's the real possibility. You can't be worried about them. You got to take your immediates and figure shit out, and that's it. You go. You decide whose car we taking and where we're going. And do we have at least enough food to get through day one? At least. And then go from there. So, but that's worst case scenario. Best case, but you have to assume that that's not going to happen and that the next day is going to be all right and your portfolio is still going to be there. You're still going to be investing. You're still going to have to go to the dentist. You're still going to have to go to your job or your own business and move on with your day. You can't let like a bad dream where a plane explodes next to you take you down a tailspin where the next thing you know, you're going space is fake, flat Earth. You can't do that. You can always ask questions, but you cannot let it consume you. But you have to be ready for the worst case scenario, at least to some degree. So I just wanted to kind of like, this was a little thing that kind of pondered in my head from this little dream and then the conversations I had. And it's like, okay, let me address this and see if this is a thing that needs to be, it has some validity to it as far as the talk goes. Because that transparency and honesty should be appreciated by those around you. But, so now that I got that out of the way, best case and worst case, there is a couple of items in the news that do bother me. Ultimately, like just some shit you should be aware of and some things that are on my mind. So this, obviously, behind me is a picture of podcast history. If you're just listening to the podcast, behind me, my nephew and former associate content producer gave me a framed photo of Elon Musk when he took a hit of weed on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. It was a very interesting moment considering he has federal contracts. And he gave me the photo. I had it framed to throw up on the wall. Do I drive Tesla? No. Do I like electric cars? No, I don't. I have no need for them. I don't like them. I love the feeling of petrol rumbling under my ass. It's just my thing. Okay. But the whole idea of vandalizing a car. When I say vandalizing, I mean like flattening the tires, pulling out the valve stems, keying a vehicle, bashing it, setting it on fire. Whether it's owned by a dealership or it's owned by a person who's just trying to get to work. I'll be honest with you. There is nothing more personal. Nothing feels more violating. Nothing feels more like a personal violation than somebody trashing your vehicle. Because your vehicle that's your pathway to freedom. This allows you to get to your first day of college. This allows you to get to your job. This allows you to get to your friend's barbecue, to your fucking wedding, to your destination where you're going to get on a plane. This is your freedom mobile. That's what this is. This is something that you spend a lot of money on. You spend a lot of time in. You spent thought about purchasing. It doesn't matter if it's a Tesla P75D or if it's a 99 supercharged Grand Prix that I owned. I remember when somebody keyed my car. It's one of the angriest feelings you could ever have. It's so violating because this is your personal item that you spent a lot of money on. And the fact that somebody just goes and runs a key through it or runs a screwdriver through it or slashes your tires or kicks in your windshield or burns the fucking car or is threatening you just because there's whatever reason. Because that it doesn't matter if it's Tesla or not. It's the worst feeling in the world. I mean, so to speak. But it's a horrible feeling. It's like, why would you do that? What kind of a piece of shit are you? Honestly, if you key a car, you're an absolute, there's unequivocally a shitbag. You're the worst fucking sort of human. You're the same type of human that would probably behead somebody. If the crowd was wild enough, you'd be doing it. You do it. You're a fucking psycho. You're an absolute piece of shit trash monkey. And quite frankly, that is, in my opinion, anybody who vandalizes a vehicle, keying it, kicking it, smashing it, burning it, that is property damage. It is a felony. It deserves a fine and jail time. It's not terrorism. It's not terrorism unless it is funded by a foreign asset. Then it is actually terrorism. There's no such thing as domestic terrorism. That is it's just a naming convention that's used to like scare people. But vandalism absolutely is a thing. It is a crime. It is punishable by fine and jail time. If it's not a felony, God damn it, it should be. But pure vandalism just for the sake of whatever reason, because you don't like the person who makes the cars, you don't like the person who's driving the car, doesn't matter. Vandalism is a disgusting behavior when it comes to cars, because that's your thing. That's your thing that you're in. And obviously it's a material possession, but it's a material possession that you spend a lot of money in and a lot of time in. Doesn't matter if it's a Toyota Corolla with 220,000 miles on it or if it's a $100,000 Ferrari. Doesn't make a goddamn bit of difference. Now, obviously, I have a couple cars, and scratches happen, and you understand that. But for somebody to just go and carelessly or maliciously just put that, it clenches my fists. It really does. And you know what sucks is you cannot return in violence. Now, I understand why you shouldn't, but if you see it in action, you should have, I think, you'd have to double check the laws. If somebody is trying to vandalize your car, you have every right to prevent that act from taking place. You have every right to intervene. So the way it goes is if you have no right to attack somebody if they're vandalizing your car. I don't believe the law is not on your side. You have every right to prevent them from doing so. Now, like for example, if you're driving through an angry crowd and they're kicking your car or they're in your way, you can't get out of the car. You can't get aggressive in your actions. You can slowly go through the crowd. If they try to break into the car, that's the same thing as breaking into somebody's house. You have the right to check your local states. If you're California, you're probably fucked. But ultimately, you have the right to now accelerate to a safe at a point where you would be, all right, this is going to safely get me out of harm's way. Because at that point, the crowd is now putting your life in danger and breaking that property boundary. Vandalism, if somebody's trying to vandalize or in the process of vandalizing your car, I believe you have a legal right to stop them. And I don't mean by stopping them by putting a fucking 357 to their forehead and pulling the trigger. I'm saying literally going to them and getting in their way. You can obviously videotape them, but if they haven't committed the act yet, I would absolutely get in their way. Now, if they turn their rage or aggression towards you, and instead of trying to vandalize your vehicle, they try to vandalize you, that's different. That's assault. In that case, in most states, you have every right to fuck that person up to a certain degree. Because that's how it is. Because now it's turned into, instead of it becoming property damage, they are now turning their rage towards you, which is assault. And in some cases, depending upon what they're doing, it can be escalated even higher. And you have every right to defend yourself. So, but sticking to the vandalism of it, that is just a feeling of help. If you arrive and it's already happened, that's such a horrible feeling. And people really don't deserve that. And the people who have these Teslas, they're just, I get it, they're just butt-sniffing A lot of them are just butt-sniffing fucking environmentalists who don't know anything about the environment. They bought the car because they thought it was cool because it was the next cool thing to do. And I own a Tesla, and it's like, yeah, I get it, whatever. But I'm not. Some people, they'll park and they'll have a big old diesel truck and they'll park in a fucking electric vehicle spot because it's funny or something, or they're trying to prove a point. But this is vandalism. You're destroying property. You're damaging somebody else's property. It's a shit thing to do. I don't support it in any way, shape, or form. I never have. I never will. It's a fucking car. It just happens to have more batteries than mine. And what? Because you don't like the person that makes the cars, who created the brand, because they're supposedly a piece of shit according to you, you have every right to damage their goods. It's like, first of all, motherfucker, those cars are, the vast majority of them are, it's an American car company. It's an American car company. A lot of American people made those cars. I don't care if the car is a piece of shit or not. If the car's not made well, it's not your car. Don't fucking touch it. You don't like Starbucks? I don't like Starbucks. Like, I like the coffee, but I don't like the company, really. Not anymore. I don't go there and fucking kick the patrons or knock over their dystopian looking furniture. I don't do that. You know why? Because I'm a civilized human being. That's what civilized human beings do. We don't like something, we start with having a conversation about it, or we avoid it altogether. Or you want to, honestly, if you don't like Teslas, you know what you should do? Buy a muscle car. Buy a Mustang. Buy a Camaro. Buy a Corvette. A lot of Corvettes, especially the 97 to 2003 models, they get like almost 30 miles to the gallon if you drive them right. That's a 5.7 liter V8. Buy one of them if you want to prove a point. Buy a muscle car. That's what you really should do. This is me just kind of like fucking with you a little bit. But if you don't like Tesla because of Elon Musk, buy a Ford Mustang GT. Buy a Dodge Challenger. Buy an old Camaro. Buy a Corvette. Do something like that. That's if you really want to prove a point. That's when I went last time. One of the last times I went to San Francisco. The second last time I went to San Francisco. Half the places was Priuses. Half the cars were Priuses, which I didn't like. The other half, Ford Mustangs. Why? Movie Bullet, Steve McQueen. That's why. So that was the interesting contrast. Not so much anymore. San Francisco a little different now. Frisco's gotten a little weird. But if you really want to stick it to Elon, go buy yourself something with a Coyote V8 in it. That'll show him. Yeah, that'll get him. So, yeah. Just wanted to get that out there. Like, that's going on, and obviously if you're vandalizing cars just in general, any person who vandalizes any car, you're a piece of shit human being. Just look, you're a piece of shit. Like, if somebody's trying to vandalize a car, I'm going to fucking cute. Okay, do it. You're a shitbag. I'm going to try and stop you. If you're going to go ahead and do it, I'm going to try and stop you. Like, there was people here, what were they doing? They were stealing catalytic converters because the demand for them at the time was so high. So they were just jacking people's cars up and just literally just taking a fucking Sawzall and ripping off their catalytic converters. Nobody would find out till the next day. Vandalism, theft, disgusting, jailable offense, finable offense. It's gross. Don't do it. Simple. Just don't do it. But it's a shit thing. It's a shit thing to do. It's not necessary. So wanted to kind of like just throw that out there. Honestly, my feelings on it. I'm sure I could have that. That's an arguable point. But that's been in the news lately, and depending upon the news, whether I ignore it or not. Sometimes things are topical. Sometimes things are topical and it's more of like a, it's a mental thing, a mental state of people who like to do that. I mean, on a side note, people who vandalize cars, especially if they're vandalizing Teslas, These are people who probably need a brick to the fucking head. But I'm just saying probably, allegedly. This is not something we should recommend or go seek out to do. But in my head, hitting somebody with a brick who is just a terrible human being, in my head, it doesn't seem all that bad of an idea. But it's not something I'm going to promote or support. Obviously, if somebody's trying to vandalize your car, you stop them. And you stop them by just getting in the way of them vandalizing the car. That's one approach. If you're, somebody who is not in the position to physically be that imposing, there are other routes that you can take. But if you're somebody who's maybe 6'2", 230 pounds, maybe has a little Anavar in Diana Ball in their veins, yeah, maybe be a force for good. Help a brother out. Also, another thing. This just came up, and no fucking surprise here. No surprise here. 23andMe filing for bankruptcy, trying desperately to find a buyer. And all of that data, approximately 15 million users have their data on 23andMe. Oh, I want to know where my ancestors came from. Yeah, your personal data. I don't know what you actually have to put in there, but I'm sure it's like your name, maybe your social security, parents' name, address. I don't know. Blood type, semen load. I don't know. But my God, a lot of people probably freaking out over this because, yeah, it's third-party data. It's your private data potentially going to somebody, going to a firm that you don't know. I mean, obviously, it's like whatever. Everybody has our data anyways. It's like, dude, the buck's got to stop somewhere. You can't just be all fucking nihilistic about it. Whatever. These are things that you can take your power back a little bit. If you are a 23andMe customer, there are steps you can possibly take. I don't know if this is going to save your data, but it's worth trying. It's definitely worth trying. If the option to execute this option is there, you should absolutely go forth with it. And news outlets here's the cool thing is news outlets are telling you what's happening, but what's even cooler is they're telling you what to do about it. And I feel like that's something that news outlets can offer. They're advising you. They're not telling you what to do, but they're telling you what you can do. That's what you should do. And I mean, in my opinion, if you don't want your data there, yeah, you should probably get rid of it. So the thing is, in California here, the Attorney General issued consumer alert also, and here's what they said basically. They issued a consumer alert for customers of 23andMe, generic testing information company. It's a California-based company. Hilarious. Has publicly reported that due to financial distress, security filings, its ability to continue, blah, blah, blah. Sensitive consumer data is amassed. The right to direct the deletion. Okay, so California has a very specific Consumer Protection Right Act invoking these rights about deleting all your data. So, let's see. They want to invoke their rights about. So how would you do it if you wanted to delete your data on 23andMe? This is genetic data. Holy shit. So actual genetic data. You'd log into your account. So let's go through this carefully because these are directions you probably should take if you've used 23andMe. Log into your 23andMe account on their website. Go to the settings section of your profile. Scroll to the section labeled 23andMe data at the bottom of the page. Click view, which is next to the 23andMe data. You can download your data if you want for personal storage. But ultimately you want to scroll down to delete data. And then scroll down to the delete data section and then click permanently delete data. Confirm your request. You'll receive an email from 23andMe and then follow that link and confirm your deletion request. So if you have to destroy your 23andMe test sample, if you opted in to have your saliva sample and DNA stored by 23andMe but want to change that preference, you can do so under the account settings page under preferences. So you opt to have your saliva sample and DNA that's stored there under Preferences. To revoke permission for your genetic data to be used for research, if you previously consented to 23andMe and third-party researchers to use your genetic data and sample you for research, you may withdraw the consent from the account settings page under Research and Products Consent. And then they state the following under GIPA. California consumers can delete their account and genetic data and have their biological sample destroyed. In addition, GIPA permits California consumers to revoke consent that they have been provided a genetic testing data company to collect, use, and disclose genetic data and to store biological samples after the initial testing has been completed. The CCPA also vests California consumers with the right to delete personal information, which includes genetic data from the businesses that collect personal information from the consumer. Then it gives a link for the CCPA, consumer protections, rights, all that shit. This isn't to say, like, it's already been sold off to third-party companies if you already consume. But obviously, if you want to kind of soften the damage, this is an option to take. They urge that you do it immediately. So if this is something that you've opted into, I would advise going through all this stuff immediately. Stop what you're doing. Make sure that you have all this stuff completely deleted. The ramifications of you leaving this stuff on there. Obviously, you know what? I mean, not for nothing. There's a firm collecting this information right now, getting ready to sue. Obviously, there's going to be a lawsuit for all this, depending upon how this goes down the path. Obviously, there's going to be somebody reading the rights and stuff like that, terms and conditions, depending upon who this gets sold to. There's a law firm that's getting ready to seek damages ultimately down the road. And then 23andMe and whomever else will be like, oh, we admit to no wrongdoing, so we're just going to sign this big old check and call it a day. Especially if there's a data breach. So that's something to perk your... And now, full disclosure, I have not done anything 23andMe or any of this stuff. It's like, I know enough about my past to be like, all right, we're good. I don't need to know who my ancestors were in 1864. I know that I'm a few generations off from Sicilian and Ashkenazi Jewish heritage. I know some of the places that my family came from. I know I'm not black. I know I'm not from the Antarctic Circle. I know I'm not a fucking space alien. I know, a few odd things about myself that I don't need to know anything further. I know that my family came over on boats to Ellis Island. A lot of people were driven out by the communist Soviet Union. Ashkenazi Jews were generally not welcome in the Ukrainian Russian front back in the day, and they were kind of, they kind of had to flee the area. They came over on boats. There was obviously the Polish Jews and stuff like that, and then of course there was Sicilians and Italians that came over on the boat as well, seeking a better life. Some of them went on to become cops. So I know enough about my past to be like, okay, that's enough of a story. But ultimately, I don't need to go any further than that. I don't need to follow it any more than that. I'm good. I'm good. But if you decide you're going to go down this route, and now all of a sudden you see this, I would recommend you close up shop with 23andMe as soon as possible and make sure that your data gets deleted. But I mean, it sucks. It sucks. Before we close up shop, I was having this conversation about you go to the gym and there's you have to judge your surroundings. What kind of gym do you go to? First, if you go to a gym and there's a few attractive women, attractive men there, it's like, okay, well, no shit, it's a gym. You go to a gym, you should expect some physically fit and appealing people there. That's a gym. That's how a gym should be. There should be a lot of jacked dudes and shredded girls and showing their shit off and putting in the work. If you go to a gym and there's absolutely no attractive people there, or maybe one, It's like the old saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. All right? It's like, why would you... It's like when girls take their fat friends, they surround themselves with like fat, unattractive friends to make themselves look prettier. It's like that only makes you... That doesn't bode well for you. That does not make you look good. It actually does not make you look good. You're just trying to make a gap. It's like, well, her fat friends are all there. She's definitely the one we should probably try and take down tonight. It's like... No, that doesn't work. Well, it works to an extent, but only for short-term benefit. It's for short-term benefit, if you catch my drift. But honestly, you need to be at work or in your work environment. You need to be surrounded by people who are highly intelligent, highly motivated, okay, and highly successful in your work environment. If you're in a fitness center, in a gym or whatever, people you go running with, they need to be fit. You need to be surrounded by people who take care of themselves, look good, are strong, dress well to the gym. You'll have a couple flabby habbies in there, but ultimately, people at your gym should look good. Why? Because that gives you something to strive for. They'd be like, they're doing something good. I should, work on that. There's cleaner equipment. There's stronger people. They're better looking. It's like, okay, I've got work to do. There's smarter people at my work. I need to strive to be as smart as them and as hard as working as them. There's people at my gym that are jacked to the fucking nines and look like they belong in a fitness magazine. I need to work a little bit harder to try and look even a quarter as they do. And then as far as like people who are, do you want to be surrounded by broke people? Not successful people? People who can't even figure out what their fucking gender is? No, you need to be surrounded by people who are hardworking, who are your friends and your family, that are successful, that are motivated, that are financially stable or growing. Those are the people you want to be surrounded with. Those are the people that you should look up to. Those are the people that you should take some examples from. Obviously, if they're drug dealers and making a lot of money, it's like, okay, well, maybe not so much, but ultimately, you should be around hardworking people, hardworking employees, smart people, intelligent people, well-read people, very cultural folk. When you go to the gym, fitness area, strong people, lean people, good. Obviously, they'll end up being good-looking too. And of course, your friends. Your friends need to be successful to an extent. They need to be successful, wealthy, responsible. These are the people. This is your circle that you need to be involved with. You can't be jealous of people who make more money than you, who look better than you, who are smarter than you. You just need to understand that there are avenues that you can follow to a degree in which is going to bring you to their level to a certain extent. If you're around them for long enough, you will start to emulate some of their success. And that will only raise your game, and it'll allow you to be like, okay, well, they're doing this, this, and this. All right. Well, if I'm not doing this, this, and this, I can at least do this, this, and this. I can't be them, but I can at least do this, this, and this. And if I just do that and focus on what I'm doing, using this tactic, and that tactic, in these arenas, the gym, the workplace, and in my friends, with money, it's like I can raise my value. I can raise my value, improve my environment, improve my life overall. Just by doing that, like I need to stop working at Subway or at GameStop or at the fucking burger place. I could do better. I need to follow these guidelines. I'd be like, I'm worth this, this, and this. What can I be doing better? All right, at the gym, I go to the gym. I go to all these people. It's like, these people are fucking crazy. Are they just all on steroids, or are they just doing something a little bit better than I am? All right, well, if they're using this machine, and this machine, and they're using this form, and that routine. It's like, all right, maybe I can emulate that, and that, and get a 20% improvement. Get a 10% improvement at least. If I do that, and that, now I'm stronger. My cardiovascular system feels better. I mentally feel better when I leave the gym. I see an improvement in my sleep and in my eating habits. All right, I'm hanging out with broke-ass friends. Why am I hanging out with broke-ass friends and broke-ass family? I should be hanging out with people who are more fiscally responsible, who drive nicer cars to a certain extent, and ultimately just like have a better lifestyle. What are they doing that I'm not doing? Okay. You can always ask questions just in conversational form. Be like, you do that? Okay. All right. Well, okay. And then you want to be. It makes you more motivated to make those decisions where your life improves by 10%. If your life improves by 10%, it'll improve by 20%. If it improves by 20%, it'll improve by 30%. Because ultimately those habits will lead you, those habits and those routines will lead to incremental improvement that will, it will multiply in multiples where your life is just going to get better and better because you're not hanging around with losers anymore or being around dumb people or going to a gym that serves pizza every other Tuesday. And you're going to have a better outlook on things. And you're going to be a smarter person for it. And you're just going to ultimately have a better life. You can't be jealous. You can't be jealous and be like, and just kind of regress. No, you need to be like, all right, this is the path I'm going to take going forward. I need to be responsible and I need to be around these types of people. You do that, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to be in a better situation. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. If you especially for kids who grew up going to high school in a touristy town. As soon as you're done with high school, you need to get out of that touristy town. Get out of that touristy town, go out into the world for a little bit, and escape into an environment that you're not familiar with and see if you can flourish to some degree. And go up against obstacles. Don't just stay in that touristy town. You won't survive. You will never, ever progress as a human being. So do not sit in those environments where people are not fit, coworkers are not smart, and your friends are not successful, or you'll drown as a human being. You'll never go anywhere. You'll never go anywhere. If that's your choice, fine. But I'm telling you, these are the things you need to do. Don't get jealous or resentful. That shit does not fly. You need to be like, they're doing this, this, and this. I need to adapt some of those lifestyle choices as well. And you will win because of it. You will. If you have questions about these things, you can email me directly, positivesarcasm@outlook.com. You can go to my website. You can contact me there. There's a contact page. It is very simple to get a hold of me if you have questions about some of the things that I'm doing. This is for entertainment purposes only. I'm not certified in shit, but I am somewhat successful in life as far as, I have value in many different formats. I take care of myself physically. My dog is super healthy. I'm pretty healthy. I have money. I have cars. I have direction. I have happiness and love in my heart. I have appreciation. I have this podcast that I can run without a producer. I know how to edit on my own. I can do a lot of things. Ultimately, I can do my own fucking laundry. What does that mean? I don't know, but it's one more thing that I could do on my own. I rely basically on nobody to do things for me, which is the cool thing. So, take that as you will. So if you have questions, concerns, or comments, my website, my email, or Instagram. Hit me up any way you so choose. Close it in. We got just over a month left before we close up shop here for a nice hiatus. It's going to be so freaking great. I really am so looking forward to this. The search was, so let's see. The search started in about January and ended in early March. I'd say a good solid 30 days, and we were all wrapped up. And that was it. I said I was going to do something, and I, as usual, I come through. That's a great feeling. Didn't hesitate. Every time I just don't hesitate, man, shit is, I'm rewarded. I'm rewarded with that hard work. It's been a great year. I knew this was going to be a super hard winter. A super hard winter. I knew it. I called it. And I'm like, I'm ready. Let's fucking go. Got sick a couple times. Whatever. But held it together. Coming into the spring strong. And I think I'm about right on. Everything seems to be on schedule. So, look, I know a thing or two. So, even though this is entertainment purposes only, you might learn some things. So, you can find this podcast on Rumble and on YouTube if you want to watch the video version of it. But as far as the podcast, anywhere where the audio version is available. Literally, wherever you download podcasts from, it's probably on there. Including my website, you can download it and stream it directly from there, positivesarcasm.com. Just go to the podcast section, hit the download button, or hit play. It's really up to you. But thank you for listening, watching, and subscribing. I know I had a bunch of thoughts that was all over the map today, but once again, This program is a stream of consciousness, and there was just some things on my mind that were all over the map that I just thought I'd share my thoughts on. And once again, another week, and we did it. So thank you for listening, watching, and subscribing. And I'll catch up with you guys next week. Hopefully I'll have something for a week in review. Recorded here from the Spare Parts Studio. Getting ever so closer to New Hampshire's beautiful seacoast. For entertainment purposes only. This has been a Positive Sarcasm presentation.